We are live.
We did it. It's been a while.
It has been a while. So, oh, did you put anything
For
crazy?
spicy topics or to start?
Well, I was gonna say, what if we invert this episode and do picks and plugs first? Because that'll be
Okay.
something we can talk about,
Yeah.
and then obviously for the final recording, we can mix things up a little bit.
Cool.
I have
I've
to
got
decide.
stuff.
I've gotten so much new stuff lately that
Dude,
I'm like,
and I'm about to get a bunch
excited.
of new stuff too, as well.
Okay, so I'll do this one. So you just mentioned in the pre-show that you are a night owl, that you like working out late. So I put a band on it, but this
Ooh,
is
yeah.
the Aura Ring.
Oh, that's the Aura Ring.
Yeah,
Cool.
I put a band on it, which I like just because I don't know, to me, the shiny thing is like it's so much bigger than my wedding ring. I'm like, I'd rather it just be a little bit more understated, plus this protects it. But so I got the Aura Ring and I love it.
What is it
It's
like? What does it
pretty
do?
amazing.
And does it do a good job at it?
Yeah. So the biggest where it shines the most is on sleep tracking.
Okay.
So I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and he was interviewing this like sleep scientist and was like, you're killing yourself if you're not sleeping enough. And when I like get into projects, I get in the zone, like
Yeah.
sleep is the first thing that goes. I'm not
Hmm.
good at it. I can get by with a lot less sleep than most people. And so I just do. Like I'm like a toddler when it comes to that stuff. Like I'm tired, but I'm not going to bed. Like it's so boring. I can be far more productive while I'm awake. But it is convicting, like as I'm getting older, like I just have to do a better job of taking care of myself. And I can tell if I'm not getting enough sleep, just emotionally, it's harder for me to process things. So, anyways, I was like, okay, I'm going to get this to keep myself accountable. And I did great for like a couple of weeks. And then the last few weeks have been terrible. But the thing that's interesting is like, I can see it in the numbers.
Yeah.
Like I see the direct effect that it has on my body. And
Ah.
so it's like, to me, that's exactly what I wanted it for, was not just like I wake up in the morning and I'm tired for 30 minutes and I just go about my day. I
Sure.
want to see in the numbers how it's affecting my heart rate, how it's affecting, they have like a resilience thing. There's
Mm.
also like an activity meter in there that's based on how well you're able to recover at night. So a lot of it for night stuff really does come down to how much time you're sleeping. Like, are you actually like putting in the time? Like I know how to affect that number, but there's just like other things you can do. Anyways, it's just been fascinating. The other thing that it'll tell you is your stress during the day. And it'll tell you like stress is not a bad thing, because if you're going to exercise, that's
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
but your body will feel that stress. Your heart rate will elevate. But a lot of it has to do with how well you can recover with that stress.
Yeah.
So it's been fascinating for me to like watch from day to day what things stress me out more. And that's not to say like you just want to live in low stress. That's not possible. But again, just like how you recover and how you treat yourself in that recovery. So, for example, Tuesdays are my worst days. And that's because it's my meeting day. I have to be on all day, I have to be paying attention, I have to prep for it. But you can see the numbers. My heart rate is elevated almost all day on a Tuesday. So it's just fascinating looking
Wow.
at all that biohacking stuff.
Does it also show, you said there's like a resiliency number. Is that kind of like how recovered you are?
Yeah, so it's based on 3 different things. My resilience has gone increasingly down, which is, like, a little disheartening, but, what it does is it, like, looks over the last 2 weeks, and it kind of takes that stress into account. So, like, for example, when I was the most resilient, I was almost exceptional, but it's because I had a really high stress day, and it was like the ring almost knew, like, you're really stressed out, but your body is, like, compensating well for that.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
and then, like, I know I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit because yesterday was a Tuesday. Yesterday, I had a very low stress day, and so it's kind of set my resiliences lower because I wasn't having to work as hard during the day. So it's
Okay.
like that gap. Like, there's 3 different things it takes into account. It takes your nighttime recovery. So like I said, if you put in the time, you can get a good nighttime recovery. So I haven't been doing that. So I'm at fair. Daytime recovery was optimal, but that's like, what that means is like your recovery during the day. If you have a high stress moment, are you able to recover well after that?
Mhm.
So like, I said yesterday it was high stress, but I was able to recover. So I had an optimal score there. And then like daytime stress load, it was like low. So some of it's like checking to see how it compares against other numbers to know how your body's acting overall. But I am 5 years younger in my heart than my actual age, which
Cool.
makes me feel good. Yeah. But the
And
other thing
so
that
so it's better than the watch in all of these categories of doing this kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, well, my
Because like,
watch I
that's all I
charge at
have,
night.
and I don't wear it at night, you know?
Yeah, so that's the thing, I charge my watch at night, so you
Right.
don't get that. This will last, like, 4 days, and it'll only
Okay.
take, like, 30 minutes to an hour to charge, and then it'll last. So, usually, I just charge it while I'm sitting at my desk because 'cause I'm like, I'm not doing anything crazy. It's not
Right.
like I'm trying to get a stat. The other thing that's really helpful again, the sleep stuff is really where it shines. It tells me like, this just came up the other day, which is kinda cool. Just the more information it gets, the more it can tell you. So it says this is your body clock. And I've never identified as a morning person, but it's like you are a late morning person. Your optimal time, and some of that's like by default, I have to be up by 7 to help my kids get out the door. But it's like you are the most productive in the late morning. So it's like not getting up at 5 a.m., but like what you do in the
Yeah.
first 2 or 3 hours of the day.
Yeah.
And but then it tells you like you should go to bed during this time, like and trying to get you on
That's
your
nice.
circadian rhythms and what your body needs. The other thing that it's good is it tells you, let's see, yeah, it gives you like activity goals to try and hit based on where it knows your body clock, like how well you recovered that night. So if you have a terrible night's sleep, it's going to tell you to take it easy. If you have a fantastic night, it's going to say you need to push yourself a little bit more during the
That's
day.
kinda what I want. Like, the watch does an okay job of, like, giving you numbers, but I want the insights because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm the type of guy who runs based off of habit. If
Mhm.
I do the same workout intensity every day and I won't stop until my body basically is, like, screaming at me like, "Bro, go rest." And so
Yeah.
I want something to tell me, like, "You're not recovered enough to, like, do this type of workout."
Yeah. I should have asked, brought this up when Becca was here because she has the Whoop band, which I did look at
Yeah.
briefly because that has a lot of the same metrics. And I did look at comparing the two. The reason I went with the Ring was because there is a subscription fee, but it's like $5 a month, whereas the Whoop band, it's like $30 a month.
Holy
And
cow.
so, yeah,
For
it's like
what?
a lot more. It's a lot more. Well, and some of it has to do with the pricing. So, like the Ring, you pay more upfront, but like the Whoop band, it
It's, like, super cheap.
incorporates well, they ch this is what they say. They say you get the Whoop band for free, but then you have to pay for the subscription. So when you
Uh-huh.
buy it, it's like $300, but the first year of service is included.
Mm,
The Ring is I think a little bit less, and then you have the $5 monthly. So if you compare over time,
right.
like 3 or 4 years, the Ring is
Mm,
much cheaper.
yeah. Yeah. Now the one thing I do like about Whoop is that recovery number, I feel like, would be
Yeah,
really valuable to me.
yeah, yeah. There is I mean, yeah, it's probably a little bit more accurate than this. There was something else that it said that I was gonna highlight that was really interesting. Um, said the body clock, the sleep stuff. Yeah, but anyways, the point is I really enjoyed, um, yeah, just looking at the numbers and tracking that over time. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. You can tag things. So, for example, I mentioned I have not done a good job the last couple weeks because I've been working on projects and kind of burning the candle at both ends, as they say. So I can tag all those things because it'll say you didn't do a good job of sleeping last night. What was the deal? And I can tag
Give
it
it a
and say
reason.
late work. And
Yeah.
so it came up the other day. It was like, we just have a new insight. If you're working late, you don't get a lot of sleep. I was like, thanks for that.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I could have told you that.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
normally, like, it'll come down to the same type of factors, you know?
yeah, yeah, but it did have a thing like this is a couple weeks ago. It was like, hey, let's run an experiment. Let's see. Are you drinking caffeine after or 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed? Let's see
Oh,
how that affects your
interesting.
sleep numbers. And so it would ask me every day, did you have caffeine during this time? So in general, they can also tell you like most people see a 2-point difference for me, they were like, "You're fine."
It
Like,
doesn't matter.
it's about
Wow,
this.
that's really cool. I like that. I like that. It's like, here's some things you can try and let's use
Yeah,
the data to see if it's working or not.
yeah, yeah. So it's fun.
Sick.
What about you? Oh, a
Uh,
plug. I'll do a plug really quick. I don't even know what I'm gonna plug.
I
Um, I'll do the Broken Comb. So if you go to
there you go.
brokencomb.dev, this is my newsletter. I haven't sent out a newsletter yet. I've plugged this before, but I have great plans for this. So go ahead and sign up. If you're like, I haven't gotten your newsletter yet, no, it's coming. It's in the works. But anyways, the whole idea with Broken Comb is that we can go wide and deep on certain topics. And the more expert you are, the wider and the deeper you go in terms of your expertise. So it's about building out that broken comb. We want to go wide on design and development and go deep on it. So check out brokencomb.dev. Okay, what you got, Brad?
I have been buried in new responsibilities. If you look at my title down below, things have changed, and so I've been super busy. But video games keep coming out, and dang, do they keep interesting me. I won that PS5 from Century, and so now I've been trying out all these different PS5 games. And Astrobot just released. It's like this cute little platformer for PlayStation 5. It's kind of like a Mario competitor type game.
Okay.
Um, and it's awesome.
Is
Like,
it just PS5?
it's
Or
just
can you do it?
PS5. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a PS5 exclusive. And it's so good. The controller like has all this noise and different kinds of feedback under the
Oh, fun.
triggers and like and sound actually comes out of it. And so playing the game is like really it gets you into it because the
Yeah.
controller is doing so much in your hands. Super fun and it's really throwback to like old days of like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2,
Nice.
which I played all those games.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, a game came out called Plucky Squire that I'm going to be picking up for Switch. It looks awesome. And then the new Zelda game is coming out end
Ah,
of this month. So, as much as I
yeah.
want to build side projects, like work is keeping me busy, I'm just going to relax at night and play video games.
So I'm going to tell you something that's going to hurt your heart.
Uh oh.
Maybe everybody else's. It has devastated our family. My son lost his Switch. So
Were all the save game files backed up or no?
it's not just saved game files. It's like game cards. And that's the part that
You
hurt the most.
loaded it up on the
We had
console and they're like on there?
Well, so I'll tell you, we have, and maybe this will make us lose sympathy. We have two switches. We
Uh-huh.
have like what we call the family switch. That's the traditional switch. And then we have a Switch Lite that was my son's.
Cool.
And so he took it on some road trips this summer and it got lost on one of the road trips.
Oh no.
But when you have two switches, if you buy digital games, when you load up the game onto your Switch, it has to connect with the internet to make sure that you're not playing on the other Switch. You can't play it on both Switches at the same time,
Huh.
like just how they do their digital rights. So we had problems when we would go on road trips because the kids would be like, "Oh, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to play this game." And it wouldn't load up because it couldn't sync with the server.
Mhm.
And so what we started doing was we would just buy the actual game card because it made it easier on a road trip. Here's
Right.
the card, load it up.
Right.
So there were 12 games that are gone.
Oh,
And it was like all
sucks.
of his favorite games. So anyways, I think if we had to do it over again, I would just encourage, this is the moral of the story, for anybody, buy the digital game, because in that case it would have stunk that he lost his Switch, but we wouldn't have, the games were actually more valuable
Yeah.
than the console. So anyways, that's
I
where we're at.
just turned off my Nintendo Switch Online subscription too, which like syncs all
Uh,
of your progress and digital
yep.
games and stuff. And I'm like, man, if I ever lose this thing or if it breaks, like my Zelda save file is gone, which is like
Yeah.
160 hours worth of time in there.
Well, this was interesting. So with the Nintendo Online stuff, we could get on there and see when was the last time it was played. And
Like somebody
so,
has it.
well, no, we had played it. So we
Okay.
saw this is when it was played. And then this is also a little embarrassing. It took us like a month to realize that it was missing just
Oh,
because we have
geez.
other stuff. So it like 3 or 4 weeks went by and nobody touched it. And then Henry was able to log in and see somebody's been on the menus and tried to turn off the parental pin, but they've been on the menus for 30 minutes.
Oh
So,
man.
you know, and I can't blame them. I don't blame them because I'm like, we didn't have any contact information. So there you go.
Right.
You have a switch, put contact in there, put an air tag. You know, that's part of it, is we have no idea. It just tells us hours logged. We have no concept of GPS or anything like that. So yep.
Oh, that stinks. That stinks.
Yeah. Okay, so plug.
You know what? I'll plug stripe.com.
Yes.
Go to stripe.com, put in the Konami code, and see what happens.
Konami.
There's an Easter egg on the homepage. You know, up, down, left, right, BA, BA.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's an Easter egg on stripe.com.
Tie in with our video game chatter.
Yeah. And a good tie-in for one of the topics we want to talk about today.
Awesome. Okay, so if you're joining us now, we kind of did an inverted episode. We just did our picks and plugs. We're going to go back and intro the episode. So anyways, we're not going to do picks and plugs. If you missed that part, all good. Just catch the live episode when it plays. And I'm going to let, my dog is in my office and he's going to cause problems.
Yes, I should check on my dog. Charlie, what are you doing?
Oh, man. Has he gotten big?
No, she's still small. She's only like 21, 22 pounds right now. And I think that's where she's going to stay. And so I take her to school every day with the kids to drop them off. I walk her up. I make her sit. Everybody runs in and pets her. Like her training is going really good.
That's awesome. Peanut, I love our dog. And if I could change his genetics at all now, I would do like a Cavapoo, because he's a King Charles Cavalier, and he just like sheds everywhere. And so like right now it's like, I'm not taking him in my car. He's gonna get hair all over me, hair all over the car. So okay, let me find the intro. There we go. Sweet. So what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. And today we have so many awesome things to talk about, from new jobs to Stripe to, you name it. It's going to be a good episode.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a lead maintainer on the Redwood JS core team.
Hey, y'all. My name is Brad Garapi, and I'm a senior front-end developer at Stripe.
Awesome. And that's new. As of like 2 weeks ago.
I think this is my third week. No, my fourth week? I don't know. Third week. I started on August 26th at Stripe.
Awesome. So tell us about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Stripe does in-person onboarding in San Francisco. And actually, it's kind of like a weird part of San Francisco. It's called South San Francisco. Have you ever heard of this? Oyster Point, South San Francisco.
I've been to San Francisco several times. I don't know anything about the neighborhoods.
There's like a hill on South San Francisco. And if you go over that hill, there's this like marina area called Oyster Point. And that's where all these biotech companies are. So like 23andMe is there, Pfizer is there, this really big one called Genentech. So it's just a bunch of biotech companies and Stripe.
Awesome.
Their office is awesome. It's actually bigger and better and cooler than the Atlassian office. And the in-person onboarding was like really cool. Just to join with a big group of people. There was like 120 of us going through the onboarding all at once.
Oh my goodness.
They're hiring right now. So talk to me if
crazy.
anybody needs a job at Stripe.
What?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm joining the Link team, and if you've never heard about Link, it's kind of Stripe's like way to recognize you as a consumer across any website, right? Because many merchants implement Stripe, and then now there's just a way to like track you everywhere in a non-creepy way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Shop Pay if you've ever used that. You'll like put in your email address and they'll be like, oh, we know who you are. Just type in the OTP we sent you and we have all your data.
There's so many times where I've like gotten ready to pay for something. I'm like, oh, I got to go find my card.
And it's done.
And it's like, oh, wait, we know who you are. And I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. So the product is is already like fairly mature. We have 100 million registered users on Link already. We just crossed that boundary, but now we're kind of like doing a bunch of efforts to kind of consolidate the code because we had to integrate Link into all of the different payment surfaces that Stripe has. You know, that you've got hosted checkout, you've got Stripe Elements, all these different places. And so it kind of like got really divergent. And so we want to like, you know, kind of bring the code back together, maybe make a design system, kind of make some centralized state management stuff just for Link. And that's kind of like the next evolution and phase that we're doing for the product. And that's what they're hiring for. The team is like 100 people all in total, I think, like data
Wow.
scientists, developers, designers, product managers, lots of different little areas. And they're just kind of scaling and growing it.
That's so crazy. The past, I don't know how many jobs I've had. I've just worked on small teams. So when you're like, my team,
Yeah.
not just my company, my team
Yeah.
is 100 people. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, but for me, this is the smallest company I've ever worked at, right? So Stripe is 7,000, 8,000 people right now, and it's the smallest one I've ever worked at. But it
That's
felt
so
so official and good and awesome. You never know if the grass is going to be greener, right? When you make a
Yeah.
job transition. And I was nervous until I feel like I showed up to the office that first day, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm going to be fine." Like seeing what was going on, I'm like, they know what they're doing. It's fine. But a lot of that onboarding was like teaching you about kind of like how Stripe makes money. Like it's
Mm.
not, they don't make money on like just payment processing. Like that's not their
Oh,
highest,
that's
you
what
know,
I would have
yield
said.
thing. They process a metric crap ton of money, don't get me
Oh my
wrong,
goodness.
but
I
like
can't even
a lot
imagine.
of times it's just small bits of profit there. It's low margin, high volume.
Mm.
But they have other businesses like you can issue a credit card from Stripe. You know that? Like if you're a company
Ah,
and you're using Stripe to manage everything, you can like
so it's like a
use
bank.
machine learning to detect fraud. You can issue credit cards, you can issue loans, like you can do all this crazy stuff right from Stripe. And like a lot of our company benefits run off of a Stripe issued card. So like,
Huh.
oh, I don't have it here with me. But like this one benefit that we have where it's like, you know, you get some money every month for like athletic fitness
Mm,
gym
mhm.
stuff. It's just like a Stripe issued credit card with like the little logo printed on it of the company that's doing the benefit. And they're like, yeah, Stripe powers this
Huh.
card experience. Like that was really cool.
Interesting. That's awesome.
So yeah, but as far as like the team and the code goes, I feel like there's a ton to learn. Like it's not the most complex front end code I've ever seen, but it's like the business logic layer.
Mm,
It's
mhm.
insane, absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Now, what's the tech stack?
It's React on the front end. I have seen a class component or two in there. So it's a little old, but a lot of this Link stuff specifically is new because it just came out in the past few years.
Mhm.
React, TypeScript, Redux is the state management because
Okay.
state management needs to live outside of React. So you can't
Mm,
just necessarily use context. Um,
sure.
because of security, a lot of these things that Stripe renders are in iframes. And so they have to do
Mhm.
cross iframe communication. And so Redux can sit outside of that context. And then you can kind of, there's ways to transfer Redux state between these iframes and things like that. There's a whole layer underneath there that they've developed. And I think they're trying to improve as well.
Interesting. Like I didn't even think about like all the security stuff that you have to keep in mind.
Apparently
Like,
it's
that's why I
insane.
use
Yeah.
Stripe. Is that
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with all that PCI compliance.
PCI. We took this PCI compliance course, and in order to like, we could get audited at any time. Somebody could walk into the office and ask like me, like some PCI question, or if I'm compliant. And the way that they did it so that employees would like remember is there's a song. Like they made a whole song about PCI compliance, and
That's
it was
awesome.
fairly catchy. And so you just, if you ever get asked these questions, you just tell the auditor, "Oh, I've sang the song," you know, and like that lets them
That's
know.
awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I've been like onboarding to a new company, I feel like is tough. It's been like a whirlwind, and I've really been trying to get my footing. And you know, I'm also trying to like establish myself as like, you know, a pretty senior person, but all at the
Sure.
same time while not knowing anything. You know, you just walk in the
Right.
door and it's like, well, how do I like cement my position and get up to speed and start like having impact when you don't know the product or, you know,
Sure.
all the idiosyncrasies of the code.
Yeah, that makes sense. Was there anything in the onboarding process that surprised you?
Stripe builds a lot of their own tools.
Okay.
And it's like a lot of times homegrown tools can like kind of suck. Like I've used some tools from Netflix before, like one called Spinnaker. It's for releasing, and I thought it was pretty bad. Stripes are awesome. Like Stripe built essentially a Confluence clone, and it's like just as good,
Like all
if
their
not
own
better. Yeah. They built a Confluence
Wow.
clone. And like their killer feature is some of their markdown editing features and this idea that documents have a lifetime, and when they expire, they are no longer verified. And so it's like kind of the problem with Confluence when you just hand it to a company full of thousands of people is that you just get out of date information and the search becomes useless. And so there's kind of like this built-in, verification feature and alerting feature where it's like this doc is about to go out of date. Your team owns it, or you were the last one to touch it. Like go in here, make sure it's accurate, and then recheck it that it's good to go.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, really good. So like you can trust anything in there.
That's awesome. And then like our search, is that all their own? Or are they using Algolia for that?
Search, I'm pretty sure it's all their own. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then they also built a like a really cool like data pipeline that crunches all the log messages and puts it into a place where you can use an LLM to like construct queries on all the data. It's awesome.
Huh.
It's like if you're trying to analyze bad API requests or like the history of a customer or like what's going on, you can just like type in like a human readable sentence, and that's going to spit out like this query language that will go join all these database tables together and be like, here's probably what you're looking for.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I've been doing a little bit more with AI and trying to code. I've been using Cursor. So I've just about moved completely off of VS Code. I'm on Cursor now.
What do you think? And that's like a monthly fee, isn't it?
Yes and no. So
Okay.
you can use their free plan, but what happens if you're on their free plan is they put your query in a queue. And so a lot of times it'll say you're 20 of 1, you're 19 of 1, you're, or
does it go fast?
It depends. So if it's like sometimes I've been coding at night and it'll go really fast.
Yeah.
It's like almost instantaneous. You don't feel like you're in that queue. But then there's other times where I say at night, sometimes like I don't mean to like stereotype at all, but you're like, I know all the India developers are coding now. And so there's like super busy right now. So there's certain times at night that I feel like it peaks. And it's not just because it's like, oh, we're not in US business hours. That was my point. That it's global. Like you feel that.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, it's pretty good. Sometimes it's more stable. I say stable. It's more reliable than others. The thing that I do like about it compared to VS Code, like Copilot, is it seems to have better context of my project. But even then, there are moments where, like, right now, I'm really struggling with the fly deploy. And I'm like, I need help with Docker and writing bash shell scripts for it. And this is not something I'm super great at. So it's a perfect opportunity to pull in AI to be like, help me with this. But just because it's like the projects it's pulling from might not have the latest fly documentation to be able to make the correct recommendations and things like that, it's still just hard.
There's a way to fix it. I listened to the syntax episode on Cursor this morning. You can give it a URL for context. It will index that URL and then use that as added context. So you can give it the fly docs.
I can. Interesting. I might do that.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. I also need I'm using Docker on Fly. So it might even not be a Fly thing. It could be a Docker thing.
Could be a Docker thing. Yeah. Oh, I really do want to move a lot of my stuff over to Fly because I love their like SQLite read replica co-location with your app. I think that's awesome. But I'm just like, oh my God. Then you have to do Docker, and Fly doesn't have like a really nice GitHub app that you can just install.
Yeah.
Like there is a third party one that you can install for like a GitHub action, Like I just give me like the Vercel
I know.
experience that
I
like
know.
just
I
stick it in
know.
there and do it.
I know. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Fly. Some of it is because it's all command
Yeah.
line based,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
like if you're in the flow is really nice. Trying to get it set up sometime can be a pain.
Yeah.
But part of the reason I've leaned into Fly, I'm checking the outline to see if I can talk about this now.
Do it. Do it. Go.
The reason that I've leaned into Fly is because I was at the Web Dev Challenge last week, and the sponsors for the show. So I'll explain it in a minute. But the sponsors for the show were Fly and Tigris. So
What's
Jason
Tigris?
Langsdorf, it's like data management. It kind of like it makes Amazon S3 easier if you're trying to upload images and things like that. It's like you know how like flight control sits on top of Amazon S3 and it's like we're just
Yeah.
gonna make deployment easier. We're gonna use all of Amazon services. It's like Tigris, as far as I know, does like basically the same thing, except it sits on top of Amazon S3. So if you want to like upload a bunch of images, it makes it really easy to
Sure.
do that, and you're not having to set up
All
Amazon
the
S3
BS.
buckets. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does all that for you. So Jason Langsdorf, if you check out his Learn with Jason channel on YouTube, but one of the recurring shows that he has is the Web Dev Challenge, where he brings in 3 other developers. So he participates as the 4th, and they have a couple sponsors that then the 4 developers have to build something within 4 hours using that sponsor. It's pretty cool just because it gives you exposure to maybe different sponsors than what you've used before in the past. I've used Fly before, but had never used Tigris. And so getting all of that set up. But the other thing I appreciated is the developers that he pulled in had different specialties and levels of expertise. So Lawrence Codes, if you've seen him on Twitter, he lives in Memphis. He was doing his whole project in Java. Josh Sear, I'm really sorry, Josh, if I'm
Ooh.
mispronouncing your last name. He
Laravel
was
guy.
on the Laravel team. He
Yeah.
will also be on the Compressed show because I was like, we need to have you
Yes.
on. He was amazing. And then I was doing Redwood, and then Jason did his project in Remix. So the cool part is we've had several conversations over the last year, 6 months, talking about looking for the Laravel of JavaScript. And so pitting Redwood up against Laravel was like super fun. And
Do you,
just, you know,
do you feel like anybody was able to like get running faster because of like just framework of choice? Like, do you feel like Josh had any kind of advantage or you had any advantage?
yes, it was very obvious. Josh and I
Wow.
got tons more done than everybody.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous, actually. Just how much more we got done, or how much, like, we just weren't struggling as much to get stuff done because we've already, like Laravel, for example, Laravel has adapters built in, so he was just able to swap out a few config things and get Fly and Tigris running. So there's
already a
bit more.
Fly adapter for Laravel.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
pretty sure there is. Yeah. So he just is like flipping on adapters. And then
Dude.
he pulled in, I don't know what UI he pulled in. I thought it was built into Laravel, but I'm not sure Laravel has a UI layer just because you have so many options. So he may have pulled in Tailwind or ShadCN,
Sure.
but it looked like Tailwind UI stuff.
Sure.
So he pulled all that stuff in, and then I did a custom UI piece. So that was kind of my big thing. But Josh's demo was just fantastic in how he presented his project. So to me, like, that was where my main learning was like, oh yeah, I could have made my presentation a little bit more interactive and at the end of the show. But one of the things that he incorporated was background jobs, which was cool. So hopefully I'm not giving away too much of the show. I mean, it'll still be good to watch. So there's also a prompt when you're doing the project. So we're all kind of trying to build something somewhat similar. So the prompt for us was, we all have these memories that we're trying to document or things like that. Build an app to help document or create an experience from capturing memories. And it's cool, like just the different things that people were trying to to build based on that prompt, and how different all of our applications were on this one thing. So mine, and I knew going into the project, I was always going to struggle with scope creep. So it's one of those things I'm like, I didn't expect to finish, but I want to finish the project. So I bought, of course, it all starts with a good domain. I bought FOMO.com. So we go to all these conferences and trying to share pictures, trying to create plans, trying to figure out who's going to the conference, message people, do rideshare. Like I want that app to be all of that. So you go to a conference and you can see, okay, who can I meet? Who can I connect with? So if you go there now, I think it's live, but it's like not very limited functionality.
It's live.
It is live. So it was fun to build that. And then he built an app where if you his thing was, which our family does this too. This is in Bluey, I think, where it's called Favorite Things, where we sit around the dinner table some nights and we just go around the table and say, what was your favorite thing? And it's like a good way to be positive about the day and just learn something about the person's day and learn something about, I say learn something. I know a lot about my kids and my husband, but like what was important to them during the day. And so he was like, just his kids are younger than mine, but he was like, my wife and I, we text each other back and forth every day what our favorite thing was. And he's like, I want to create a feed where you can go back and just see everything that was my favorite
Cool.
thing over time. And so part of his demo was he was like, hey, everybody create an account, share a picture. And then his thing was also he'd set up a background job where at the end of the day, it would say like, here's all of the things that were in the feed, vote on what your favorite thing was that somebody submitted. So he was kind of showing off Laravel jobs, which I thought was pretty cool. So with Redwood, we just released in version 8 that went out 2 weeks ago, background job support. And I was working with it on a side project, and it like, shout out to Rob on the core team. The API is just so easy to work with. Like, it's just, man, I can't even tell you how easy it is just to say, hey, do this later, and you send it the function. So anyways, I think if I had time, I would have tried to feature that as well in my application.
That's awesome. Like, and I love how everybody's pretty much trying to build something similar and everybody comes up with wild ideas. And that's a really good one, especially for the sponsor of Tigris, where it's like, look, you're probably going to be uploading something, so Jason was smart to kind of pick like a prompt like that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and that, that's kind of interesting hearing other people's, like integrations. So like Laravel, they had an adapter. It's just plug in the config and it works. With Redwood, it was still pretty easy, but I was doing everything through GraphQL. So with the next, like when we release RSC and SSR, it'll be even easier because you won't be tied to GraphQL. But right now it was like, well, when you submit the form and I create a new user, then it will automatically upload and handle all the avatar and the cover photos and all of that. And all that gets handled within GraphQL, and it's super easy because it's all done on the server. So the fact that Redwood is truly a full stack application in the sense that we have an API layer and a front end layer made all of that simple.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see where this, like, if Redwood and Laravel separated from the pack, I'd be curious in the Remix case to see like what integrations were causing it to fall behind. They do have the server layer, but Redwood probably gives a lot more in that regard.
Yeah, and the Java piece, I did ask Lawrence to come on the show too, so we'll have him on. But I just always think of Java as like, I don't know, like more hardcore software applications. But the fact that he was able to create a web application with a front end piece, it's like, hey, yeah, this is all running in the browser. Drop your stuff. That was really interesting to me, and I didn't really know that that was possible.
I would love to hear about the front end side of things there. Like, is it just like a templating language, like string templates in JavaScript, where he's just like spitting out HTML, or is there actually some kind of UI there, or is he just writing JavaScript that comes down and client rendering? Who knows? Because I'm familiar with the Spring side of things, which is just your Express, your just your standard web server. But like, how does the front end piece come in the Java world?
Yeah, I don't know all the specifics other than the fact that he does work for a company that creates a framework for Java.
Oh,
so when we're talking about how he picked people, obviously I work on Redwood, I work on the framework. Josh works on Laravel, he works on the framework, and then Lawrence works on this Java framework. So we're all framework developers ish. So there's a level of expertise there. I say ish because I don't necessarily contribute to framework code, but I
Sure.
build on top of the framework.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, let's see. Let's keep the code theme going.
Okay. Oh boy.
One of the first things that I've gotten a couple PRs in already at Stripe. So like first
Awesome.
week,
That feels good.
probably somewhere between 3 and 5. I think I have some in flight, some have already shipped to production. Little stuff, but kind of one of the first things I'm digging into a little bit more is like writing unit tests, because all this code is fairly new, this LINQ code. And so we're not gonna like pick new technologies or anything or start from scratch. We're building on existing stuff, but we need to set some paradigms for like our area of the application. So Stripe already has a really good like mocks already defined for like every endpoint, and so that's there.
Nice.
But how do we like scope that down into what we care about? So writing tests for our product and our features, how do we like provide the right level of abstraction to just like render our thing, mock out what we need to mock out, and like maybe some helpers of like how do you navigate our thing. And there was like two schools of thought, and I'd be curious to get your opinion on this, and I'll share mine as well. One school of thought was like build everything in. Like for example, one of the things that we commonly do is the one-time password inputs. You know, like you get emailed or texted a code, you have to put it in. And so there was this idea that we have these custom actions defined, and like because we're going to have to go through this flow many times in tests, we should just make an action that fills in the OTP and it like auto mocks the success or the fail state. And so the action is like enter the OTP, and you like just say success or fail, you pass it like a string almost, and it knows this is what I need to put in the OTP, and this is the mock that I need to define before running that so that the response comes back this way. And my opinion was like, that's too much magic. Me as a new developer, I look at that test and I don't see what's going on under the hood, and I don't understand the dependencies of the OTP component, and I don't like get enough information about what's happening. I'd rather see more primitives. I guess I always think back to something like testing libraries, user event, or testing libraries like selectors. Like give me more primitives that are very flexible, but also kind of get the main job done. So like I kind of had like this counter proposal that was like, instead of having this like whole OTP flow where you tell it, hey, do a success or do a failure, we have primitives that make mocking easier for success and fail cases. And luckily that part's pretty well defined. But then it's like we have actions where it's like get the OTP input, and it gives you a reference to that input, which you can then like maybe call another one that's like fill OTP input, and you just provided a string and like go, you know. And so but none of that does any of the auto mocking or testing or assertions. These are just helpers to kind of help us navigate around our product and make it easy to like perform actions in it. And then sure, you could make some more complex actions. Like if you're trying to, you have to go through the whole, you know, password flow, let's say, to get to the next step. Maybe we make a combined action that's like, you know, log into LINQ successfully, and then it takes some of the, you know, primitives, does it, and gets you to that end state. What's your take on that? Like what level of abstraction would you like to see in testing?
Yeah, so I see both sides of it, in the sense of it's like, okay, this is a unit test, so I really just want to make sure it can do that one thing. Like including all this other stuff just feels like extra cruft and bloat. Oh man. It's gonna hit me. I'm gonna get choked up.
Unit testing gets me too.
Okay, I'll try this again. Man, if you're like looking on the video, it looks like my eyes are crying. But part of what I've heard for documentation is that, part of what I've heard for testing is that it serves as documentation. you should be able to look at a test and know when it says it does this. This is what I can expect. This is part of the documentation. Wow. I'm not even like really sick. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Um,
tests should be a good way to
Mhm.
onboard. Like, how do I
Right.
render this component and what does it depend on? Like, because if
Right.
you see, oh, I'm defining 3 mocks here, and these are 3 API mocks, and then you render this thing, and then fill it with this input, and then press submit. Like, oh, I get it. This is the flow to
Yep.
do an action, and this is what it depends on from the back end.
Right. So when you think about in terms of like what you were talking about, a new developer coming in, you want that to be good documentation. And the fact that it is not necessarily user facing, it's okay that there's a little bit extra code bloat there in the sense that it's serving its purpose as documentation better.
Yeah. The one area where I definitely thought it was a good idea to do a little bit more abstraction was in the way the mocks were done, because Stripe's API service is really big, and so they have a lot of like very small mock helpers that kind of roll up, and it's this big nested object where you have a key and the key's value is a function call, and that function call is kind of constructing the sub objects, and pretty much anywhere along the way you can just kind of like jump in and add an argument to one of those functions to kind of modify that bit of the response. So you
Mhm.
can kind of think about it like a mock generator, but it's like very, very big and intense and scary. And so um what this coworker of mine did was we kind of just like took that giant mock generator and pre-constructed like very common mock cases for
Yeah.
us. And initially I was like, I don't know, just let me mock it. But then in using it, he convinced me otherwise, because
Mhm.
you would do like mocks dot, and because it was an object, you got autocomplete. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I can kind of like look through and see what I want to mock. And then at any one of these levels, I can even override what you put in there. And so, because my concern was like, because this is an object with keys, are we going to have to make 30 new keys every time we need to mock some random other scenario? And he was like, no, it's all overrideable. And I'm like, okay, you convinced me. Like, this level of abstraction is really great. It builds on the existing building blocks that Stripe has, and it's just enough customization for our case, and it can still be customized without making new keys, making new entries, because it's overridable with arguments. And
That's very
so
sweet.
in some cases, I'm like, yeah, that's a good layer of abstraction. But the actions, I think they need to be very small primitives that people can use and build on, because that's what you're going to read and be like, you like, this is the user flow.
Now, are you guys pairing like full time?
Right now he was kind of setting up the initial kind of baseline for how we're going to do mocks, and like, the base level helpers. And that was like the first PR that I reviewed. And so we were just like talking back and forth. But then, like, kind of once we settle on it and once it's set in stone, we're going to kind of be off to the races, just writing tests for as much as we can.
Yeah. And when you guys are pairing, is that another Stripe tool? Like,
No,
impressive. They're like, we do all that.
no, there's no like special pairing tools. But I will tell you, and we don't use this unfortunately on my team because we just work on JavaScript, so it's really easy to just like run a little demo app locally and proxy the request to whatever Stripe backend we want. But if you're working on like the Stripe monolith, the Ruby monolith, they have this idea of dev boxes. So in your command line, they have a custom CLI tool that like the whole company use, and you just type like pay, which is the name of the command, and then the sub command is just like dev new, and it just like spins up this computer in the cloud, and it hooks up to like the code base, and it creates a branch for you, and it links it to a Jira ticket, and it's already up and running. And then you just like, you can log in from your CLI, or you can use a GUI to do this, and it spawns VS Code connected to that instance. And when you're done with it, you just press a delete button or run a CLI command, and it all just poof goes away. Like, it's really cool.
That's
It's really good
amazing.
for context switching. And at any layer, you can like proxy what you need. Like, no, I want to use local code for this, or no, I want to point to this other service. Or you can bring up or shut down whatever kind of other API services that you need. And so I don't use it, for my day to day. But like just the notion of it was really cool.
Yeah.
And it's like my computer's a paperweight. They gave me this M3 MacBook Pro, and now you're telling me to use a remote dev box. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And that makes reviewing PR super easy too.
In
Because
in
you
in
just
what
spin
way?
up their instance, you're not having to do all their setup on your machine.
Oh, good point. I've never gone through the review process like in one of those dev boxes because we're working on JavaScript. It's all local. But that could be a really good way to do that. Yeah, it's like just spin up their instance and like, run your requests against it, things like that.
Yeah, we've looked at Gitpod has an integration so
Mhm.
that it will automatically create an instance of code for every PR. Can you hear my dog? Ah,
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to, I can rip it out while you're talking, but not while I'm talking.
sure.
It's gotten so barky. Yeah, so Gitpod's pretty cool too because you could just like spin up things, and we've talked about even trying to figure out how to do like community PRs review that way. 'Cause if somebody else send us a Gitpod link or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
repo set up, makes it so much easier than trying to get your machine to match their testing environment.
yeah. Ooh, speaking of community stuff, I just got this idea for a Raycast extension this morning.
I love Raycast.
Have you ever worked at a company with Go links? Do you know what like Go links are?
I know what I know what an AOL link was. I imagine
It's
it to be the same thing.
Imagine it's just like a short link. Instead of typing like shortener.stripe.com/my Confluence page or my project page, it's just go slash and then like a keyword. And it's
Yeah.
essentially it's just a DNS layer that like points like go slash whatever to some URL.
This is just like AOL.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a concept from 30 years ago where you go to a movie and they would say AOL keyword,
Oh, okay.
whatever the,
And it
I'm
just
trying to think
shortens
of
it to
what a
that. Yeah.
movie is right now, but like Harold and the Purple Crayon, be like AOL
Yeah.
keyword Harold. And so you could log into
Yeah.
AOL and just type Harold and it would pull up all that movie stuff. But
Yeah.
it's
And
like
it's
the exact
good.
same thing that you're talking about.
It's human readable, right? It's not like a bit.ly link or something where it's like a bunch of garbage spit out at the end. So it's human readable. So go slash whatever, and that'll take you to the page. So like I hate typing those in because like you have to type it all in, right? What if Raycast just had a go command? You open Raycast, you type go, and then you fuzzy search a list of go links that you've created. Because right now I have a Notion note with 100 freaking go links in there. And I'm like, which one do I need? Like, I know it's here at one of them. Like, I should just make a Raycast extension for this. And so I think I'm going to work on that later on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Then I can publish it to the company. Put all your Go links here.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I won't go off on that sandbox or not sandbox, soapbox. Okay, let's see. I know we're not at the hour, but we started right at the hour. So do you want to keep going? I mean, this is about the length of our normal episode.
We could hit macOS if you want to.
Yeah. How long do you think that'll take? 7 minutes?
I think it's pretty short.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of tooling, macOS just dropped version 18. I've actually been using it on my phone for a while. I have the developer beta, but what are your thoughts?
I updated everything in my house last night. I'm talking Apple TVs, HomePods, watches, phones, computers, everything.
You have the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. And man, it felt good. I was literally playing a video game, watching my laptop update. I'm like, this is just the life, isn't it? But I really like it. And I'll rattle off some of my favorite features. I think the best feature on the phone that I don't think people are going to be talking about is RCS support. So all those group messages that you're in with a green text bubble, they work now. I just sent like 4 pictures to a group text message with my mom and my dad who have Android phones, and it just worked. So that's going to get way better.
and your
Yeah,
responses.
more emoji
Yeah.
reactions. That's always good. I like scheduled
I
texts. That's always good too.
Oh, yeah, that's been huge. I've used that.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a version 18 or not, but I recently changed my wallpaper and, I'm gonna hide my notifications. You can set it to photos, and it'll just pick a random photo, and I sounds
That's
so
not an
dumb.
18 thing. You're just
I
late on that
love
one.
this.
It's good.
I
Yeah.
can't remember what version it came out in, but I love it. Like, that's my favorite current iPhone feature.
I think my favorite thing now too is you can do a mode on your icons where there's no text and they get a little bit bigger. And I think it
Oh.
looks so freaking
I
clean.
haven't done that.
Yeah, so
I do have
press and hold, and then you go to edit, and then there's like a size thing.
I do have, I said I have this, but it's not showing up right now, so I don't know if it updated or what, but you could do, like, all black icons.
Yeah, I found the tint to be it's good on the Apple icons, but there's too many third-party ones that don't support it properly, and so, like, some of them look off, you know?
Well, I didn't make them grayscale, it just set the background to black.
Mm,
So, there was only a handful on here that didn't work, like the Starbucks one. I was like,
yeah.
"Just make the mermaid like a dark version."
Um,
Okay. So, you have calendar with reminders, which I know you have your whole your whole, productivity system in the Apple
I've wanted that
verse.
forever, right? Like, you've got reminders that have dates on them, but when you look at your calendar, there's no reminder integration. And so now when you open up your calendar, boom, your reminders show up on the days, you know, that you scheduled them for. So now it's almost like there's the calendar is like the one app to rule them all as far as like
Mhm.
scheduling, productivity, etc. Because can you make a reminder from calendar? Actually, that's a good question.
This is so funny. So, I've
Yes,
been
you can.
using
You can.
I've been
Heck
using
yeah.
Fantastical,
Yeah.
and so it'll show you my reminders, like, the Apple reminders in
In
Fantastical
Fantastical.
on the day.
That's
So, I
good,
didn't even know that wasn't a thing just because I've been using Fantastical.
man. I think my biggest like issue with my new Stripe setup is that they allow you to sign into your iCloud account on your laptop, but they restrict like the most important things you would care about: your passwords, your reminders, your like certain oh, your iCloud Drive you can't do. So it's like I'm crippled in my iCloud account. I can only link some of my stuff to my Stripe
Mm.
computer, and that bugs the heck out of me.
I see.
So nice transition. I'm gonna be buying like a lot of like my own Apple computer, and I got like an office
Oh,
stipend, so I'm probably gonna be getting a
yeah.
studio display, and so I get to take a fun trip to the Apple store here in a week or 2.
Nice. Okay, so I just set my phone to have no text,
There
and
you
the
go.
thing is, it almost feels like a cartoon,
Doesn't it seem
you
like a
know?
kid's toy sometimes?
Yes.
Like the big ones with the yeah.
Yes, because I guess because 'cause they're bigger, but also, like, when you just see, like, a cartoon, there's no text, they just have a
Yeah.
bunch of icons on the thing, so it does
Yeah.
feel a little bit cartoonish.
Have you used the passwords app at all?
I have a little bit, and, makes me a little sad.
How's the autofill work? Because
Let me
like,
ex
does
let
the
me
autofill work in
explain.
like Chrome?
I've only used it for a few things. The reason it makes me sad is because I've been a 1Password user for years
Yeah.
and years and years,
Yeah.
and it's like, "Oh, the integration on this is kinda better." Like, than trying to
Really?
do, like well, just trying to do a third party thing. Like, anytime I
Yeah.
go to do a password, it's like, "Do you wanna use Apple passwords or 1Password?" And it always feels like, "Well, I've gotta go over to this other app, grab the password, come back." And the fact that it's all integrated and seamless. Yeah.
Does it does it like I'm thinking about like
Don't mind me. We're fine over here.
clip
It's
that.
been a while. It's been a while since we've recorded. This
It
is the
has.
problem.
So like I'm thinking about the integration points. Like when I click on a password field in Google Chrome, are we gonna have like 3 password managers competing to try to fill that? Like the
Oh, I
Chrome
haven't.
passwords, the 1Passwords, and the Apple passwords?
I've just left everything in 1Password, so I'm not a
Okay. I
good
need
person
to
to
I
answer.
need to test this out, but again, my Stripe computer isn't the place to do it because it doesn't let
Mhm.
me use any of my passwords over here. So
Yeah.
I'm in a bubble.
It's probably better that way,
It is.
honestly.
And now I've taken this like approach to work where it's like, fine, work stays on the computer, and when
Yeah.
I'm done, I'm not touching it
Just hold
anymore.
it.
And so
Yeah.
that's just, it's healthy boundaries. It's good for
Yeah.
security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know hopefully this won't get me in trouble. I know you're supposed to keep everything separate.
Yeah.
When I was at Zeal, they did get me a M1 MacBook when it first came out.
Hmm.
And so that's the first time that I've been like, okay, I'm just going to put everything on my work computer.
Yeah.
Before I just been like, I'm going to put everything on my personal computer. And so I put all the stuff. And then when I left Zeal, it was such a pain to move
Yeah.
everything over. And it was also really scary when it was like, okay, I backed everything up. Now I've got to wipe this to hand back to them. And even though I had a hard drive with all of that on there, that was still just like, okay. You know,
I'm glad we're talking about this. I mixed work and personal on my Atlassian computer,
Mhm,
and I went through that scary backup process, like you said, and I put
mhm.
everything into iCloud. I said, "Hey, look, like I'm all Apple now. Everything's going into iCloud." And when that Friday came, they shut off my access earlier than I thought. And I was like, oh shit, oh shit. I had like a mini meltdown thinking, what did I leave on the computer?
Mhm.
Luckily, I was good. And then, of course, I get my Stripe computer. I don't have a backup personal laptop. And Stripe is like,
Mhm.
sorry, you can't access your iCloud. And it's like, what do I
Mhm.
do? Like, I was using my phone as like a proxy to get
Uh,
information that I needed from my backups and stuff. And I was like, I have to go buy a new computer.
yeah, yeah. So when I started at, Redwood, we did have I could have asked probably Tom for a computer and all that, but I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep everything on my personal machine
Yeah.
because then I don't have to worry about that stuff. And like I have my old laptops from previously, and that was always like peace of mind whenever I get a new
Yeah.
MacBook. It was like, well, if I need to go back, like, yes, I'll back it up, but I can always access it. So I just didn't want to be at that place again. So I've done everything on my personal machine.
See, if I could do that, I would love that. Like,
Yeah.
just,
Well, and I understand.
company, save yourself $3,000. Like, just let me check out your code. But so much security involved, obviously.
Well,
But
with Stripe, I can't even imagine. Like,
now I'm like strictly in the camp of I'm not going through that again either. I
yeah,
will have a personal computer and I will
yeah,
just treat work like work, and that's that.
yeah, yeah. So,
The biggest problem is like, where do you take notes then? Like, they're like,
oh,
we have an Apple Notes for you,
I
like,
use everything in Notion.
so you
Um,
would take your work account and make like a Notion account and start putting stuff there? Because even then, I'm like, wow, it
uh,
feels like I'm sticking. I probably shouldn't
here,
take Stripe notes on a
yeah,
third party product. So
yeah, I can understand. That's like next. I mean, that's like healthcare
it's
stuff.
next level. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't mess with that.
So
With
all of a sudden,
Redwood,
it's very different.
yeah, with Redwood, we do have a Redwood Notion account. I'm probably the
There you
only
go.
one on my team that's like a power user, love it.
Yeah.
So there are some things that I've just been like, I'm gonna put this Redwood stuff in my account, and it just in some ways it feels better because it's like, oh, if I left, this is my thoughts about a project that I want
Yeah.
to take, like
Yeah.
mine. It's intellectual property,
There's like some work notes that need to live in your personal account, like maybe any feedback you get should go in your personal note section, because
Right,
like that's personal development, it goes with
right.
you. Or like I always have these two sections of notes, like onboarding and offboarding, like why did I choose this company, why did I like it,
Mhm,
and then offboarding, like what didn't I like, how did
mhm.
things wrap up, what did I
Yep,
do. And so like there's some bits and pieces that I'm putting on my personal, and then all like the job related notes, like project notes, whatever,
yep.
stays on Apple Notes on my work computer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but like even meeting things, if I'm like,
Yeah.
if it's like personal thoughts that I have during a meeting that I want to make sure like this person did this, like I want to make sure I address this in this way. I don't necessarily want them to see that note, or, if it's a private meeting, I don't want somebody outside of that meeting to see that. And that's one of the things I think Notion hasn't quite, I love Notion. They haven't
Yeah.
figured out that privacy piece. So, anyway, I did try Reflect recently. So we were talking about Web Dev Challenge. Josh has been using reflect.app, I think is the URL for it. I downloaded it. It feels like Rome Research, like a pretty Rome Research if you ever looked at that particular app. The thing that I I tried to use it for a day or so, but then I felt like I was splintering all the stuff that I have in Notion And then it was like
Yeah.
half my stuff is in Notion, half the stuff is in Reflect. So then I just like ended up going back to Notion. But
I wonder,
anyways.
it's not anywhere near as powerful, but there's always Bear Notes, which is just
Yeah.
like you own the markdown files.
Yep.
We just put a little bit of a UI on it. Like it's kind of a good in between if you don't want to stick something on Notion.
Yes. Sorry, I just saw Sashi's
Yeah.
comment.
He came in late. AOL, what?
AOL. Yeah, sorry, that was 8 minutes ago.
Yeah, we're switching service providers, moving to America Online.
Bring it back. Yeah, so I mean, there's notes. It's interesting because it's like notes are so simple, but yet they're so hard.
Yeah.
Also, if I were to get on a soapbox about notes, notes in general, I'm just gonna I'll leave this at the end of the episode. So one of the features that Reflect has is the mind mapping, where you can go and see like this giant cloud of like little tiny dots, and then you can zoom in and be like, oh, I have lots of notes about this topic. I don't understand that feature. It's like the most pointless feature to me. I'm like, who interacts with their notes this way, where you're like, I just want a bunch of dots to represent my note. Like it
maybe if you're trying to find something, but
not even then. Like
you
I
would
so
know like
notes.
a tag or a keyword.
I have so many notes. I'm like, to me, it would make more sense if I look at to your point, pull up the tag, and then I can see
tag.
all the related notes to that. But the fact that you just have this giant sphere of dots, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of dots around this thing. What is this cluster? And then maybe you can zoom in on it. But in general, it's like, oh yeah, I already knew I had a lot of things about JavaScript. Like I didn't need this thing to tell me you have a lot of notes about JavaScript.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, you know what? Maybe it works better if you're, on a team, right? Doing like actually sharing it with somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. But I will say the experience with, I'm not hating on Reflect. Reflect is beautiful. I'm just saying in general, that UI pattern has not made sense to me. There's several apps that implement it.
It'd be cool to just like take a screenshot of it and share it, like this is my brain in a mind map, but yeah, when it comes down to organization, I don't think it gives you much.
Yeah, but no, I did love Reflect. So if you check that out, I don't want you to hear me wrong. Check it out. It is pretty good. Just the thing that I like about it is everything revolves around like this idea of a daily journal, like is their main theme. And so if you've done any bullet journaling or like things that you need to know for that day, that's a kind of an interesting organization pattern.
I was hoping for the Apple Journal app to come to Mac. I was using it for a little bit when it came out on the phone. I feel like I was in a high stress time and I was like writing, and that felt nice, but I hate typing on my phone like with a passion. Put it on a computer, please. And I would use it like every day.
Yeah. Have you seen, apparently this is the thing where Gen Zers make fun of millennials for how we use our phone and our computer.
In what regard?
It's like, oh, I need to buy a plane ticket. So I'm going to go sit at my desktop and put on my glasses and go order a plane ticket.
Look, I'm so like that. I just feel like I have more control over the information and a bigger screen. I hate shopping on my phone.
I know. So they were like, why? Like,
internet on my phone.
I'm on my couch. I just bought plane tickets. I didn't have to get up. So anyways.
Yeah, no, I want big screens to make decisions like that.
Well, here's the thing is anytime I'm buying a flight, most of the time when I'm buying a flight, it's for work and I need to print out a PDF, which you can do on your phone, but it is clunky.
Yeah.
And it's just easier to be on the computer and save as a PDF and print it off that way.
This time around with like all that work expense stuff, I decided to get all the physical credit cards. So like for my like I said, that fitness account, I have a card for, and so I can just purchase with that card and boom, it goes right up to the fitness account. I don't have to submit any reimbursements. I got a company card. Anything I use on the company card gets auto expensed, right? So I just went hard on that this time around, and I feel like it's going to make life easier beyond juggling what's in my wallet,
Yeah. We've had moments where it's like, oh, we could get points for this thing and I'll just issue a reimbursement. but it does create weird cash flow things where it's like it's just easier, I think, and more straightforward.
Yeah. That's a good point though. I like the I like the points, but like the things that I'm getting are
There's
just like
so many things though. I've been to
$100. Like,
conferences. No, I've been to conferences where they're like, we'll reimburse you for this stuff. And there's one conference in particular, I cannot get them to, it's not you
oh,
would think it would be, but they will not. They've ghosted me.
that's
I'm like,
tough.
you owe me a nice size check for my travel.
That's tough because it is. It's like, look, I want it to come from you. I don't want to mess around with it. Let's make it come
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, on that note, let's go ahead and call it for now. That's all we got. Sweet. Okay. Sashi, thanks for hanging out in the chat. I think you're the only person that commented. Oh no, Mac. Sorry. Mac.
Yeah. Oh, it was good
Oh,
talking. It's been a while.
it has been a while.
Has
But thanks.
school all good with everybody starting up?
Yeah, school's good. The only thing is today is early release, which is the
Why?
worst
It's
day
a
in the
random
entire-
Wednesday?
Every other Wednesday, the kids get out like 2 hours early. It is the worst day.
What? Why?
To help teachers. Which
That's
I
rough.
don't want to underestimate what they do because I'm
Sure.
like, we send our kids to school because we don't want to do what you do. I really do appreciate it. And I know that they are undervalued, underpaid. They probably work more than anybody else. They put in a full days of work and then they come home and they grade papers and they answer parent emails and then
Yep.
they do it all over again. So I don't doubt any of that, but also please just keep my children.
It
have
seems
an
weird that it's just like random early release. Just give
Yeah.
more holidays or something, but scheduled early releases seem weird.
It's the worst. So,
Yeah.
and I'm curious like how that messes up their day, like because I think what they do is they take like 15 minutes from each subject and then
Uh-huh.
I just try and condense the day. They still they still have every subject that day. It's just a condensed day.
Hmm.
So, anyways,
Yeah, a
and
lot
then
of
what's
overhead there.
crazy is the buses. So the buses, it might be different for middle school and high school, but with elementary school, they will run the buses in their new time when they're released. And then they'll also run them again at the regular time. So if you have a parent that doesn't work from home or the kids can't come home, you can opt for them to stay at school and they'll like all go to the gym and the teacher assistants will be in there with the kids. So the buses are running like all afternoon trying to accommodate for the different schedule. It's kind of crazy.
We just started bus drop-offs. I'm still bringing them to school, but they're taking the bus back and
Oh.
they love it and it's so much more convenient for
Right.
Gabby. Yeah.
Well, and just not having to sit in a line for an hour.
That's it. They changed the system and it got real bad this year. And so we're like, yeah, you're taking the bus.
I mean, even just drop off, like it's just, it's a lot. So what's fun is my son is in 5th grade this year and they let you do what's called safety patrol.
Yeah.
So what he does is they drive around like the circle in front of the school, and then everybody will stop. And then all the 5th graders, well, not all of them, but whoever's designated for safety patrol will come open the doors for the kids.
Yeah.
The kids will get out. And then like once everybody's settled on the sidewalk, then that round will pull through. Isaac absolutely loves it.
Yeah, we've got the same situation at our school. I have a feeling like my daughter will want to do it eventually when she gets old enough. I don't think my son will care.
Isaac, well, this is funny. One of my friends sells Mary Kay, and she has a pink Cadillac. And so Isaac was telling me that everybody was fighting over who got to open the car for the pink car. So anyways, I texted my friend. She's like, that's amazing. All right. We'll go ahead and call it. Thanks to everybody. We will hopefully catch you next week. Be back in a recording rhythm.
Yep.